with the group. Be right back, BRB, in the chat, just letting the folks know that you're away. So a word now about navigating teams. Just a reminder, right? That's that ribbon, I believe, across the top to identify who's in the meeting. The chat feature, how to activate that. Reactions, emojis, a way of communicating our emotions. And rooms, we will have breakout rooms today to talk about and engage in the topic of effective collaboration. You see the three dots for additional features, the camera, the mic, and then sharing your screen. So again, just to know that the ribbon at the top of your screen helps to navigate. Each Saturday, each month, we review the team norms, just reminding everyone why we're gathered and the purpose and focus of our time together. So participate respectfully, welcome multiple viewpoints, devote your attention to those speaking and sharing, ask questions for clarification, be courageous and speak your truth, own your intentions and your impacts, and honor our time together. This is how we stay connected. We have a SharePoint site. It includes multiple resources, past sessions that are recorded, readings, handouts, and resources provided by our various keynote speakers and presenters. There's just a wealth of information available there. Also, a directory of all scholars and participants. That's one of, I think, the key strengths of what we do. It's this chance for you to build your own capacity and network with other scholars. It's all, again, about strengthening special education leadership across the state. And a discussion board. So it's a place to ask questions, share ideas, cultivate understanding. It is an expectation and requirement of the grant to participate in the discussion board, but above all, it's a resource for you to stay connected with one another. So, in case you missed it, last month the session focused on family-school partnerships. There is a link to the session. You can also access the session through the SharePoint site. And we're going to build upon partnerships, the idea of the role of effective communication in special education in today's session. Here's the agenda. In a moment, we're going to hear from Dr. Abel, the Academy updates, followed by our keynote presentation. Around 11, we'll take a break. We'll return for more information and breakout rooms. Near the end of the morning session, we'll have time to share with one another across the groups what we've learned, and then a wrap-up at the very end. We'll drop a link to the HDI evaluation in the chat at that time. Pause to see if there are any questions. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Abel.
Thanks, Bill. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to the new scholars, Cohort 3 scholars. We just met with them a few minutes ago and went through a brief orientation, so it's exciting to have you all in the large group here, so welcome. I wanted to circle back. Bill mentioned a little bit about the discussion board, and we'd encourage all of you to just spend a little bit of time in there, to put some thoughts up, reflection points. The reason that's really important, obviously, as Bill said, it gives you all a chance to share your experiences, thoughts, insights, etc. as you're going through this journey. But we also look at that for our program evaluation, and that's really important for us to be able to keep the project going year by year. Every year we have to report what's called an annual performance report to Washington, and they look at that, review the report, determine if we've been making progress, etc. So they will continue next year's funding for that. So anyway, just wanted to bring that up. It's a very important part of our project evaluation to keep things moving forward. Next item, Cohort 1. coming to an end here. This is your last required Saturday seminar. Congratulations making it through on these. We're excited for you all. We want to spend some time next month celebrating your accomplishments, recognizing you. So want you to think about September. If you can attend cohort 1 members, we'd love to have you here. We're going to spend a little bit of time. Greta Helton's going to be here. The Associate Commissioner, share some thoughts. So we'd love to have you in September. Voluntary, but we'd love for you to make it. So we'll be sending out to cohort 1. We'll be sending an email out just with some details, just so we know who'll be able to attend, etc. So with that information, I think I'm good to go. I'll pass it back to Shasta.
Well, Shasta would love to take it, but this is Bill's show today. Shasta's the Oz behind the curtain. So
Yeah, let's see. Let's see, where are we here? There's the updates, and as Mike said, welcome cohort 3. Cohort 3 was sharing some information, introducing themselves. We would, I think, invite the whole group to join them using the Padlet, either the QR code or the link found there on the left side of the screen. Yeah, share a little bit about yourself, what you do in your free time, who you are, your role, about if you have kids, dogs, pets, share some information, get to know one another using the Padlet. So as mentioned, we have a discussion board. It is part of the annual evaluation. HDI does collect this information, and it's part of our the activities that we do, that we share with the grant administrators. But as I said earlier, most importantly, it is an opportunity for you to network with one another. It is a chance to share comments, questions, and ideas related to Kentucky Leads, to reflect and respond between each session. So in the event that there are things we don't get to today that you really want to talk about and explore, the discussion board provides you that opportunity. I'll pause there to see if we have any questions. I can't see the chat, but if there are questions, if not, hearing none.
yeah, chat looks good. I just was looking over through some of our really fun conversations and information here on our Padlet. Like so many fun things. Like you guys are like awesome and smart and stuff. But the things that you like to do in your free time, the things that you do in your free time, like I'm going to spend so much time reading this. And you guys can respond and react to each other as well. So if you're like, oh my gosh, me too, you can add a little heart to that, and you can even comment on someone else's post. And it's just a really good way for us to say, oh my gosh, I can connect with you on that, and just to kind of get to meet each other. And I will just kind of remind, this is for cohorts 1, 2, and 3. We know that cohorts 1 and 2, you guys are like old friends by now, but we want to give everybody an opportunity to connect and meet with cohort 3 as well. And so if everybody could kind of just hop on there and just share a little bit of information about yourself, so we can have that virtual connection. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Shasta. Thanks, everyone. Now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleagues, Dr. Tracy Sharp and Jane Painter, to share with the group today more about effective collaboration. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Tracy and Jane.
Well, good morning. This has to be the coolest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. As a dose by trade, I'm a little jealous. Sorry, I try to celebrate most people, but this is so cool to be able to gain this knowledge and experience prior to going into the role of being a dose. So as Bill said, my name is Tracy Sharp. I am currently working with the Kentucky Department of Education, which is so exciting, and loving that opportunity. Prior to that, I served about 10 years as a director of special education. I've worked in started my career in an alternative school and EBD, where most people get their start, quite honestly, because those are such challenging areas. But I'll be very honest with you, I discovered my love and my passion through that avenue. So that's pretty much professionally. And then personally, I have married and live in Columbia, Kentucky, and have 2 awesome kiddos, one going to college and one just started high school. So we're into a new phase of navigating life. So that's a lot of fun, and I'm just honored to be with you today. So thanks for having me. I'll let Jane introduce herself there.
Okay, I'm Jane Painter, and I am the Special Education Director for Kentucky School for the Blind and Kentucky School for the Deaf. This is my 3rd year in that role. Before that, I was the Special Education Director for Boyle County Schools in Danville, Kentucky. I did that for 25 years. And while I was in that role, I also served as the Federal Programs Coordinator, Interim Human Resources Director, 504 Coordinator. A lot of times anything that would kind of come my way. So, sometimes that when you're in that role, whatever the superintendent needs you to do or they ask you to do, you kind of step up. So I have had a lot of opportunities to do lots of things in administration. And before that, I taught special education, some EBD, some learning and behavior disorders, just various things. So I'm happy to be with you all today. And I, like Tracy, I think this is a great opportunity for you all. I wish when I had started out that I had lots of people like this to network with. So I think you all are very lucky to have this opportunity. So thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Jane. It's an honor to be able to co-present with Jane today when you've spent some time in the field, and we'll talk today about collaboration and making those connections and how important they are. So I'm going to get us started talking about collaboration with those in the Technical Assistance Network, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And the first thing I'm going to do as I start to share my screen is ask you all to please drop into the chat some feedback on those pre-questions that you had around the co-ops or the RTCs that you're currently a part of. So take just a minute, drop in the chat a little bit of feedback based on those pre-questions that you had in the discussion board, and we'll kind of get that started a little bit, kind of see what areas of the state we have represented today. Some of you all are, I don't know, just be interesting to see. So we'll wait just a minute and give you all a moment to start populating that chat. Awesome. CKEC, Berea, Greg Calloway, Ovek and Anderson. So lots of collaboration going on. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we appreciate you all taking a little bit of time to kind of delve into that information prior to today's session to kind of get us started. Because when you think about technical assistance and you think about our technical assistance network across Kentucky, districts collaborate with a lot of different individual entities, right? And so I think most of you probably know Becca. I think she's a part of this group with you all. Is that right, Shasta? Yes, and so Becca worked really hard. She's our webmaster. She worked really hard with some folks and created the Technical Assistance Network page recently. So we're going to take just a moment to share that with you all. Awesome. So I collaborate with all regions. That's wonderful. Okay, thank you all very much for sharing that information. So as we get started, we're going to talk about a variety of technical assistance providers throughout the state. And as you looked and as you researched, or at least took note of what all is currently on this website, you will see that Kentucky funds, the Office of Special Education and Early Learning funds a lot of different technical assistance providers. And I'm going to be very honest with you all. I knew some of these things existed when I was a director. I did not know that OSIL funded them. I did not know that the funding came from the Office of Special Education and Early Learning to be able to build capacity inside the LEAs to serve students who receive special education. So that was very, very eye-opening to me, just really as I came to the department, to be honest. So there's everything, as you were able to discover here, from American Sign Language interpreter education. We go down, a lot of folks are familiar with the Kentucky Work Transition Program. I'd be interested in knowing in just a moment how many of these different entities you all figured out, or collaborative partners that you figured out that you do collaborate with in your district or in your area. So we can definitely take a look at that. But you all are familiar with a lot of these that play very important roles. Every district's involved with Kentucky Post-School Outcomes Center, KIPSO, as part of their indicator data for transitioning. So that's one. The parent network, I'll be very honest with you, that's one I did not know as much about. And notice I'm not going into a lot of detail on any of these areas because Jane is going to talk with us too about collaboration with KSB and KSD, which will be wonderful. The Kentucky Traineeship Program, that's actually how I got my DOS certification, is I went through the Kentucky Traineeship in Special Education Program. So there are several entities that do that. So just sharing with you and highlighting some different areas. One that I've learned more about that I was not aware about is the Kentucky Deaf Blind Project. I've learned about that since being at the department. I had no idea, if I'm just very transparent, and I'm transparent a lot. So I'm just being very honest with you guys on how awesome this experience is that you all are getting to have access to these resources. So a couple of the biggest, and you all have indicated in the chat the areas in which you work, and that is very much appreciated. Some of our bigger funded areas, I'll say it that way, are our Special Education Regional Technical Assistance Centers, our SERTACs. They're also known as our Special Education Cooperatives. And so you can see on the map here that there are 9 different special education cooperatives. And you'll see one that looks right here, it looks a little bit smaller, but anyone who's in around or knows of.
Oh, Tracy, I think you accidentally hit mute. You accidentally muted yourself, I think. Tracy, can you hear us? There you
Yes,
go.
I couldn't
Now
get
we
it
can
back.
hear you.
My headset just does that sometimes. It probably that's probably my key to stop talking. And so that's okay. I can handle that. But you'll see Jefferson County right behind there. They are also a special education cooperative in and of themselves due to the size of Jefferson County. So these different special education cooperatives serve as technical assistance providers for the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. They're an arm providing supports through KDE on behalf of the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. And I had the privilege of serving as a consultant in a special education cooperative many moons ago, I guess, at this point, for a couple of years. It's a cooperative that does not exist anymore, but it was a 17 district area. Very, very cool experience. And so those are the special education cooperatives. And then also, of course, all the contact information is on here. How you would want to contact everyone is on here so that you can reach out with the different individuals. And then also every district is also part of a regional training center, an early childhood technical assistance center. And that, of course, is for preschool, our early childhood area. And you'll see that's divided up into 5 areas across the state. And several of you have identified, oh, Kentucky, thank you. Someone shared with me Kentucky School for the Blind and Jefferson County make up GLEC. So thank you for that clarification. I wasn't sure about that, so I appreciate it. Okay. All right. So those are, that's just a lot of good information of some collaborative partners as you start in a role as a DOS to be aware of. And then hopefully you all gain some insight in the current district where you're working on some of the partners that you already collaborate with. And I appreciate you all taking time to do that. And I appreciate having had the opportunity to share with you all about the Technical Assistance Network. And that is on the KDE website that you have access to. So I'm going to turn it over to Jane, who is going to talk to you all about Kentucky School for the Blind and Kentucky School for the Deaf.
Thank you, Tracy. Okay, so I shared with you all just so that you would have a little bit of information about Kentucky School for the Blind and Kentucky School for the Deaf, the outreach services that we have available. But I also, just if you all would kind of in the chat, just put some information in there if you all are aware of any students or if you have any students in your districts that attend Kentucky School for the Blind or Kentucky School for the Deaf, or if you've worked with any students that have gone there. One of the things that I know that a lot of districts don't realize, or a lot of people don't realize, is that that I have found in this role when I took on my role as special ed director for the state schools, that people don't realize that students have to be enrolled in a local education agency in order to attend Kentucky School for the Blind and Kentucky School for the Deaf. And that was kind of surprising to me because I kind of took for granted that people would realize that, because as my role as special ed director, I knew that, but as a role as special ed director for Boyle. But a lot of people coming across the state don't really realize that. So our outreach coordinators do support local districts. We have several outreach coordinators for Kentucky School for the Blind. We have several outreach coordinators for Kentucky School for the Deaf. We have directors of outreach, Tony Peebler, and then Martin Monson, who Tony represents Kentucky School for the Deaf, and Martin represents Kentucky School for the Blind. And then they have coordinators that work under them that go out into local districts and can help support your students and help with coming into the schools if you have students that need support. So I'm just going to kind of read here. Some people have said they've worked with Micah Davis, and then people have said they've had a student do a tour. Okay. 100 years ago, I completed a practicum at KSD. Okay, long time ago. Okay, so just so you're kind of aware of what the process is, students that are placed at both of the schools, as I said earlier, are part of a local education agency, and it is on the continuum of services. So in order to be placed there, you have to go through the ARC process. You have to have the ARC with your local district and make that placement decision. So it's not something that we can just have a parent call up and say, hey, I want my kid to come to Kentucky School for the Deaf or Kentucky School for the Blind. And they have to go through their local district and work through that process. And typically the way we want to work through that is we would like to make sure that student is a great fit, and that we would have gone through the continuum of services, and that they really need our services. And so that it is not just that we're going to just make that placement decision. So we would like for them to come visit. We would like to hopefully have had outreach work with the local district. We would like to have hopefully have done the evaluation process to ensure that they meet criteria, because we want to ensure that they are truly hearing impaired or truly visually impaired, to make sure that they meet eligibility criteria. So we have a lot of work that we have to do with the local districts, and then ensure that they are eligible. Let's see, I'm seeing Carol Ann put in the chat. Someone asked a question, is there a list so that we know who our coordinator is for each district? And it goes, there is a list. And then Carol Ann put in the chat that KSD consultants by region. So thank you, Carol Ann. So are there any questions with regards to KSD and KSB that I can answer there? No. Okay. So Tracy, you want to go on and move on to the?
Absolutely. And So once we wanted to talk about some great overviews, and Jane, that was really great because again, I go back to when I started being a baby dose and knowing that I did some collaboration with KSB&D, but did not have a complete understanding of what all the supports they were capable of providing. And so I love the question that Josh asked about knowing who those coordinators are and consultants are for each region, because those are going to be huge contacts for you. So as we start talking about continue talking about effective collaboration and communication, one of the big areas, or you'll see up here that there's 4 that Jane and I really, really honed in on. After the network and B&D, we really wanted to talk about staff, community stakeholders, families, and professional peers. So you'll find that Jane and I really haven't scripted this out because we really want to interact with you all and have conversation with you around this important work. And I'll kind of start us off a little bit. And Jane, I hope you'll just kind of piggyback with me and we'll just kind of go through this together and involve these awesome scholars. But as we talked and we prepared for today, we got really excited. And what we got excited about were the memories that we've had around effective collaboration and communication. And really, it excited me that she and I had so much in common, right? And if you were there at the what was the name of it? The summit. What was that? The Kentucky Leads Summit. I was on a dose panel there at lunchtime, and sometimes I say things that make people nervous. I know I do, especially around collaboration and communication. But I was pretty excited when Jane and I started preparing for this section because she felt much the same way that I do. So I think, well, maybe I'm not in left field too much. But what I mean by that is when we start talking about collaboration and communication, openness is key. And we can call it all different kinds of things. And Jane had some amazing way to, Jane really did a great job of capturing some thoughts there. But we can't stress enough how critical it is to be open and honest and communicate. And when we say communicate, that means a lot of things to a lot of people. But what we mean is availability, openness, honesty. One of the things I said, and I'm not going in this in a linear fashion, Jane, so I'll apologize. But one of the things I remembered sharing were everybody had my cell phone number. Now, people can agree or disagree. I'm not trying to put my beliefs onto anyone else. But what I'm sharing with you is I would much rather them contact me instead of get on Facebook, contact me instead of getting out on social media with everybody, contact me and let me at least assure them that I care enough to look into it before they take it to the next level. Now, I'm not confused. Legally, I know I don't have to do that. So I will tell you that if you come at being a dose from the legalistic standpoint of what your legal rights are and what legally is, required and what's legally not required, then I just want to say to you, best of luck. Right. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful because there are folks out there who do that. And I'm sure it works for them. I don't understand how that can be the most effective. And the reason I say that is because at the end of the day, we're taking care of someone's child, their grandchild, someone they care about, someone that they love. And really, at the end of the day, all they want to know is that you love and care about my child and you're going to do whatever it takes. And I'm not trying to simplify every single thing because I know we have some people out there that are more challenging than others. Don't get me wrong. But I'll tell you what I have found out. I have found out that if I sit down and talk to them, what I learn is they're misunderstood and they just have a really hard time with their expressive language too. Pick a person, whoever they are, right? Because expressive language is hard. And it's hard to determine tone and intonation. And then the other thing is that whole mama bear, papa bear, grandma bear, that comes out sometimes in people. And when it does, it's not pretty. But I'll be honest, I tell those folks all the time, your number one job is to advocate for your child. Because I'll be honest with you all here today, as a director, my biggest concern are kids who don't have an advocate. That's what I get concerned about. So staff being number one, sometimes we get nervous I understand. We get nervous because we're thinking, oh my gosh, what is this going to turn into? What do they really mean? What's going on? What's wrong? And we get defensive. That's human nature. That's human nature. But most of the time, if we can collaborate and communicate and just understand each other and share that mutual agreement that we're all there to do what's best for that child, then the majority of time it really, really does work out. Jane, I'm gonna let you talk for a few minutes.
Yes.
Let you jump in. I apologize.
Okay.
I get a little excited about this topic.
Get a little passionate there.
Yes,
That's all
ma'am.
right. Well, no, I totally agree. And I know I think your all's last session, you all did some work around families and communication there. And so, you know, I definitely agree with what Tracy said. I think one of the biggest things that I see, a biggest issue is that you know, special ed directors and administrators are afraid to communicate with families, afraid to pick up the phone, afraid to call, afraid to make that home visit. And so many times that is what that's what makes or breaks a situation. And so just that effective communication is so important. And you know, I would, if I could say anything to you all today that's maybe the most important thing you walk away with, is don't be afraid to make those contacts. Don't be afraid to call. Don't be afraid to just say, what can I do to help you? And remember that your families and your students and, you know, your grandparents, all of those people, they're your customers, and treat them like they're your customers. And what do I need to do to make them happy? And you may not always make them happy. You may not always do what they want, but in my opinion, if they feel like that you are working to help them, or working to at least meet them somewhere, you know, or do something, you know, to help them, then you know, they, even though you may not always do what they want, you know, it goes a long way. So, so I know we don't need to spend a lot of time on that topic, but the other thing that I would say to you is find a professional network. So whether it be your co-op, whether it be your you know, whether it be a group of directors or administrators in your neighboring counties, whether it be a group of people, you know, when I first started as a special ed director, I had a neighboring district that had a veteran director, and I called on him. I had to ask him questions a lot. I didn't always go to the co-op, or I didn't always go to KDE to ask questions, or I didn't always go to you know, to the board attorney, or I didn't know, you know, I couldn't always just pick up the phone and call. I had to sometimes have that professional peer that I needed to call to say, you know, hey, Greg, like, how do I, you know, how would you do this? Or give me your opinion on this. What would you do, you know, to help with this? And so a lot of times, you know, that was just a person that I could ask a question to. I was fortunate that I followed a really good special ed director. And so she had things set up for me pretty well. But at the same time, I had to build things. I had to come in and you know, do my job. But I also needed somebody sometimes to bounce things off of. But I had to find somebody I trusted. So find a person, or find people that you trust, and make that contact with them.
Jane, I'm going to toss in here that
Uh-huh.
one of the things that I've always said is, when I say it's not what you know, it's who you know, I don't mean
Yes.
that in a way that sounds bad. What I mean by that is, it's not critical that you know all the answers. It's impossible. Matter of fact, I told a new baby dose recently, I said, honey, listen to everything they're sharing with you today, and take 2 or 3 things that you're going to take back to your district and work on, because you can't fix it all right now. You'll never be able to fix it all. So it's not about knowing all the answers. It's just literally about knowing who you can call to get them. If you can do that, you've got it made. But some people's greatest fear is to say, I don't know. Well, I'll promise you right now, you'll get a whole lot further in your career by saying that I don't know than planting
You muted yourself again. I agree with Tracy. I'll follow up on that just to say that if you don't know something, say I don't know, but say I'll find out. I can find out. And one thing I would say to you is you know how to read a school law book, know how to find the answers. And I say a school law book, I'm dating myself, I guess. You can use Google now, but know how to use the Kentucky administrative regulations, know how to look things up. Because you're going to need those things. You will have to look, you're not always going to be able to go to your board attorney, but know how to find the answers. And again, to Tracy's point, even if you say to people, I don't know the answer right now, but I can find it out and I will get back to you, but then get back to them and in a timely manner. The other
absolutely, and I think my headset keeps telling me when my time is up and I need to get off my soapbox.
Yeah, well, me too, I guess. Yeah.
And I think, Jane, you alluded to that as I got cut off, and that was literally when you plant the flag of no, then you have just created yourself a really big challenge. Even if you're correct, even if you're right legally. And I'm not suggesting you lead people on and lie to them or do anything to that effect. But the minute that you just say no and you stop listening and you stop that collaborative communication, that's when it's going to get the most challenging. So, go ahead, Jane.
Yeah, I agree. The other piece on here that we talked about was community stakeholders. I do think one of the things that made me a successful special ed director in Boyle, and I feel like I did have a successful 25 years in that district, was I felt like I built a good community of people around me. I not only did I work well with staff and work with my peers, my other administrative peers, but I also knew people in the community, and I had to network with those people a little bit. I had to, if I needed to, to call on people, if I needed to ask for help, if we needed, there were times that we needed to send kids out in the community, for example, community-based instruction or things like that. We may have needed to call on people out in the community, but we wanted to be good stewards of our community. And so we needed to build those relationships. And so I felt like that was, always a good way to kind of network with them. But we had to be, work well with people. And so we all, our superintendent down to the special ed director, down to, the transportation director, all administrators, we just all tried to work really, really well together with the community, because you would be surprised when you needed them. Like, for example, when the traffic's backed way up out on the highway, they would see all of us as administrators out helping to direct traffic to load kids in, because we didn't want the traffic backed up on the highway. And you would be shocked that was something that people would see as everybody's working to make this work for the community. And so even though that's something simple, that was just still, they saw me as a special ed director being a part. And so that was another way, even though I wasn't really, people think that's not doing anything, but I was showing that I was being a supportive person. So that's just one example. So Tracy, I don't know, I need to probably shut up now. So
no, you're doing great. I was just also thinking about community stakeholders, and oftentimes one of the biggest challenges is folks just don't know and understand students with special needs. It comes across as they're not open. It comes across they're not interested, to that effect. But sometimes they're just literally scared, don't know what to do, don't know how to do it. I will never forget going to KSD. Early in my career, I had a student who started at KSD, and I wanted to be supportive and I wanted to be there for her on her first day. So I drove over there, and I didn't know where I was going. And I'd been a special educator my whole career, and I really felt good about special education. And I feel like I'm an inclusive person, and I felt like I had my head wrapped around it pretty good. And I showed up on KSD's campus and I had no idea where I was going. Well, that's a real problem, because I was sitting there going, how am I supposed to ask for directions? And I remember thinking, Tracy, you've been in special education your whole career, and you're faced with this at this moment. Imagine how everyone in your community or any community feels every single day interacting with any child with a disability. It doesn't have to be deafness or blindness or even a physical disability. It could literally be anything that we talk about in our area of kids with disabilities, and they're thinking, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. And fear sets in, right? And I probably shouldn't share that about KSD, but it's just a true story. And I remember sitting there going, wow, I shouldn't feel this way, but I did. And then I went inside, and oh my gosh, it was fascinating. And I learned so much, but I also, again, remember thinking, I really thought I knew something, and I still have so much more to learn. The other thing that is not here, and honestly, now that I work at the Kentucky Department of Education, I'm thinking I should have, but I want to speak to that for just a moment. I want to just take a moment and talk about working with the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. I'm going to be very, very honest, and anybody who knows me knows that over my entire career, I'm not a big, I'm a collaborative person. I'll just put it that way. And I say that to you all because everybody has a job to do, right? Everybody has a job to do. I'm not saying this because I work at KDE now. I'm saying this because I always worked with KDE. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to collaborate and communicate. And the number one reason is no one is perfect. I knew as a dose that everything wasn't perfect in my district. And I'll also tell you, it never was all perfect, and it never will be all perfect, because that's impossible. So every single day as a leader, you strive to be the very best you can be. You strive to follow the laws, and you strive to take care of kids and build relationships, and you strive to get it all right. But folks, it's impossible to get it all right. So don't be afraid to collaborate and communicate with your partners in OSIL. And yes, they're going to have to come out to your district sometimes. They're going to have to call you sometimes. They're going to have to do an audit based on different things that are going on with your data that may be out of your control, right? And it's okay. It's okay, because they can help you. I had that experience several years ago as a dose, and they came into my district. Now, you all again are going to think I've lost my mind, but I'm just going to be very transparent with you. I said, I am so glad you're here. And they looked at me real funny. I said, no, I mean, I've got some things I'm really trying to work on, and I need your help. So here are the things you're going to find. Here's what's going well. Here's what we need to work on. And if you could help me improve these things, I would really, really appreciate it. And it turned out to be a great experience. Things that I needed to be emphasized within my district got emphasized. Things that we needed to celebrate with staff and everyone that they were doing great got celebrated. It was a win-win, because with a growth mindset and a continuous growth process, you're always going to be working on what you're going to do better this year, next year, the year after that, and trying to continuously improve things. So don't be afraid. I noticed Shasta dropped that in there. Don't be afraid one bit to collaborate with your partners in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. They work with everyone across the state, and they're great partners.
Tracy, I did the same thing when I at Boyle one year when I was monitored. I kind of used it. I turned it around and used it as an opportunity for growth, because it was a way for me to establish some things where we needed to work on some things. And so I think if you turn it around as an opportunity for growth and a way to change some things that you need to work on. And it was a time where we were a little bit stagnant on some things. And so we needed, and again, I've said it a couple of times, I'd been there, I was there for a long time. So it gave me a little bit of a new way to approach some things. So I used it myself as a way to kind of change some things. One thing I would say too is I used to, a lot of my peers at times, and I'm saying peers, my special ed director peers, there would be many of them that would be exasperated about how parents act or how teachers act and those kinds of things. And I would say to you all, if you ever find yourself getting that way, or you can't handle the job, or you're tired of it, or you're worn out with it, I would tell you to push a reset button, because when you're feeling that way about it, you don't need the job. That's one thing I would say to you, and find new friends if that's how you're going to be. I had to, and I'll just be really candid with you. There was a time when our co-op kind of operated like that, and I had to not go to those meetings for a while because I couldn't do it. I couldn't listen to that. So I had to reset myself. And I just, and I was very candid with them. What people realize is I was very blunt with them and said, I'm not coming, because I have to change. I can't listen to this. I can't listen to that and be in my district and do what I need to do. And fortunately they heard me, they listened to me. And so they reset a little bit, because I don't think I was the only one. So what I would say to you all, as if you are directors, or if you are in that role later, if you find yourself becoming negative, or you find yourself in a position of being exasperated, because there are going to be things that don't go your way, and there are going to be people that upset you, and there are going to be times that parents are mad at you and mad at your district and mad at your other administrators, and administrators, your principals are not going to do the things you want them to do, and teachers aren't going to always do what you want them to do. So if you find yourself getting that way, push the reset button and figure out a different way to approach it. If that's another piece of advice that I could give you. And try and look at things from a different lens. I couldn't have done this for as long. I couldn't do it for as long as I did, or I have been, if I was always exasperated, and always upset, because it would be a miserable job and a miserable life. So that would be one thing that I would, if I could give you any advice, I would say that to you.
Jane, do we want to see if anyone has a question? We have about 10 minutes before we go to break. Yeah. So maybe someone has a question that they just want to ask. I know that's a little scary sometimes, but that's all right. Sure. We've gotten a lot of good comments in the chat, Jane, around just different aspects of discussing real life. So experience helps. Any question around?
Oh, sorry,
go ahead, Shasta.
I was just going to say, if you guys have a question, you can either just drop it into the chat, or, just unmute yourself and speak up. Either way.
Stacy has her hand up. Stacy?
Not so much a question, and I should have really learned at work I need to start keeping my mouth shut at these things, because I always end up getting more work put on me. But since this is not more work being put on me, I'm going to speak up. It's not necessarily a question. It's more about, listening to you all speak about your roles and how, these are the things you've done in the community, this, being collaborative, being communicative. Those are all things that are around being a servant leader. And I think that's important is, when we think about our roles and when we think about the things that are included into our daily lives, we should reflect back and say, are we being a servant leader? Is that, yes, I am being a servant leader. So, just kind of sometimes when you're talking about things just kind of bringing you down and you have to hit that reset button, I think, also it kind of goes back to when your give a blank meter is low, is at 0, you do have to hit that reset button, go and give yourself a pat on the back and go, yes, I am being a servant leader. These are the things that I've done and that I'm doing for my community and for the ones that I care about, because we all care about our kids, whether they're our personal kids, the ones that we've given birth to, or the ones that are in our school. So what you're saying is ringing true.
Thank you, Stacy. That's great advice. And someone else shared something around the aspect of filling their buckets, and that's another one that you'll hear people talk about when your bucket is empty, or you can't fill from an empty vessel, right? So if you're empty, how are you going to get refilled? So great thoughts.
That was me. Hey, I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm not as good at Teams.
Hey, it's all good. You'll notice I haven't done that either. So
it's like I don't know what my button is, but that's the button I want. I just wanted to ask what you all do when someone doesn't drink the Kool-Aid.
So Jane may have a different approach. I'm just going to say what I say because it's just the truth. Okay. I'm of the mindset that I don't care what you know, but will you grow, right? And then from there, you can help them grow or help them go. But I don't mean that to sound so harsh. Sometimes people are literally in the wrong seat on the wrong bus and they don't even know it. And they're miserable, right? Now, I also will say this, people can't grow if they don't know either. So I think sometimes as leaders, we really shy away from the cold, hard truth of speaking the truth in love. I like to refer to it as speaking the truth in love. Like, I'm going to tell you what you need to know because I care enough about you to tell you, right? Everybody else is talking about you, but respectfully, I'm going to tell you, and we're going to talk about it. Because what people find out is some people don't even understand how miserable that they are. Now, I'm not saying they have to drink the Kool-Aid, so maybe I'm not answering your question, but some people just maybe aren't in the right spot. And it's okay if everybody professionally realizes that they need or want to be in a different location. And that's okay. That doesn't mean they're a bad person or that anything's wrong with them. It just means it might not be a good fit. It's kind of like when you went through school and you had some teachers that you loved and some teachers you didn't love as much. Everybody doesn't connect the same. So it just really comes down to professionally, can it work? Because, these are going to be the expectations and what we're going to do for kids, et cetera, and families. So Jane, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with that. I mean, of course, if it's a family or a student, you kind of don't really have the choice.
Oh, I was thinking about staff.
Well, me too. Yes, I'm getting ready to go there too. You have to work with a family and a student, and if they're in your district, then you need to try and work really hard with them, and try and make sure that we can meet their needs. If you have a staff member that doesn't really drink the Kool-Aid and doesn't buy in, then they may not be in the right seat on the bus. I would agree with that. And then with what Tracy said, and then they maybe don't need to stay. I was fortunate enough that the superintendents that I have worked with, we all kind of had the same mindset, and so we just didn't keep staff members that didn't really want to be there. And we didn't keep them we didn't try and work with you for very long if you didn't want to be in our district. You know, and you know, you either bought in or you didn't. And we did a lot of things to mentor staff. We had lots of new staff training. We put you through, you know, lots of support. We did all kinds of things to support staff members. And we tried to make sure we put people in the right seats on the bus. And our district was a tough district to work in because we had high expectations, and our staff worked hard in both you know, regular education and special education. And we had high expectations for staff and students. But if you didn't want to be there, you didn't need to be there. You need to go somewhere else. And so, and that was made very clear because we did walkthroughs. We did, I mean, we were in people's classrooms a lot. You know, our principals had a walkthrough scoreboard that they had to do. I mean, they had to do something like, I mean, it was something like 200 walkthroughs a year. And so our teachers knew that people were going to be in their classrooms. And if you didn't want your administrator, including me, in your classroom, then don't be there. And so,
Jane,
yeah,
sorry.
either you bought in or you didn't. And I don't mean, I'm like Tracy, like, if you didn't want to be there, don't be there, because somebody else will fill your spot. And when we're going to support you and love you and want you there, but if you don't want to be there, don't be there.
I will say, Jane, one of the other things that I did was some of my I guess I'll say some of the loudest or most misunderstood people sometimes, because I think sometimes it comes down to being misunderstood. I had a leadership team, and I would often invite them to come and be a part of that so we could understand each other's perception, because a lot of times it came down to perception. It came down to what you perceive and what I perceive, and it's really no one's fault. It's just a fact of we're looking at it totally different. Right. Sometimes we use the same words and we're told we mean something totally different. Right. And so that was also a big part of that that process.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying. I
mean, absolutely.
We supported people big time, and really, I mean, but we wanted good, high quality staff members, and really wanted to support them. But we wanted people that really wanted to educate students and love students and put our students first. And do for those students what they would want done for their own children, if they had children or if they were going to have children. You know, do for them what they would do for their own.
So did we hit on that for you, or were you totally talking about a different area and we missed it? She's trying to unmute. I love it.
Good grief, you'd think after as many years as we've been on computers that we'd be able to do this part. No, you absolutely hit exactly what I was thinking about. So thank you all.
Awesome. I will be, someone put something to me in the chat. I will be honest with you. So much of it comes down to a growth mindset, and I'm still looking for that magical. That's what I should have done my research on, is how to instill the growth mindset, right? It is something to never lose sight of, trying to instill in others. How can we all together collectively have a growth mindset? And Jane's wisdom is just amazing. Jane, how many years did you say you've done this?
Well, this is 30.
30. You get an award, Jane. You're the winner. That's awesome. All right. We appreciate you all. I think that, does it go to Bill now?
I think so. I think we're at a point where we take a break. Lots of wisdom shared this morning. Grateful for the presentation, the conversation so far. I think we'll take a 5-minute break and then get back together and explore some questions together in small groups. So thanks, everyone. 5 minutes. I'm showing 11:01-ish, so 11:05, 11:06. We'll see you back.
Thank you, guys. You all are awesome.
Thank you all.
Okay, I think we're about ready to return. Let's see if I can move us forward to small group discussion. And Tracy, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, that's great. Let's see. Okay, my microphone's on. Somebody's clicking to get in. I have 4 screens open. All right, I'm good. All right, good to see you all. A lot changes in just a few minutes. So as Jane and I talked about preparing for today and the excitement that we had, literally, right? Like we're like little kids. We've had so much fun preparing and for the day. So for the small group discussion, what we would like for you all to do is think about ways that you could further collaborate with technical assistance and support providers that you've learned about today. What actions could you take to develop even more collaborative relationships? What's one question you have for us today about effective collaboration? And we're going to take into around 11:25 to do that. I know we're a couple minutes off, so I don't know if that'll be adjusted or if it'll be around 11:25. But ultimately, what we would like for you all to think about is how can you expand on what you know? How can you take the information that you've learned today and use that in your future career as a dose to be able to expand your collaborative relationships? Because I will tell you, those relationships end up being just about everything in your career as you learn and network. And then feel free to come back and ask us some questions. Jane, anything to add?
Nope, thank you. You did great.
And I'm just going to throw in here that usually Becca is here and she manages the rooms and she's like, does it so quickly and she's great at it. I'm trying to do it. I'm growing, right? And so I'm trying to do this today. So if I mess it up, I'm sorry. If you get kicked out of a space, all you have to do is just like leave the meeting and come back, and it should automatically put you back into a group. But if not, you get to join the main group, and we'll make sure that you have rich discussion in there as well. And like she said, we'll be back at 11:25. I'll send you guys like a little message that says, 2-minute warning or whatever. And if you don't mind, go ahead and like snap a picture, a screenshot, whatever of these questions, because once you go to your small groups, you don't have access to the whole group anymore. And lots of times people don't, they're like, wait, what were we supposed to be talking about? And just be thinking about before you come back, when you see that like 2-minute marker, just be thinking about what were the most important and rich things that kind of came up in your conversation, because we will have a brief time to share out some of those responses. All right. Fingers crossed, friends. Let's see if I can do this. It's telling me that I don't have the permissions now. Could Mike or Thomas or Bill, does it allow you guys to send people to the rooms? It's telling me I don't have permission even though I set up the meeting.
Let's see.
Let me see.
I think I just have regular permissions like anybody else.
Okay, let me try again. Okay, it says they're opening. So let's see, it should be sending you guys there. I had to recreate the room.
There we go.
Yeah, people are moving.
Yep.
Awesome. Bam, bam, bam.
color because I do like it.
Yeah,
It's
so
so
nice and
pretty.
Thanks.
All right, it says
I'll be
it's
honest.
still
I was-
closing. Think
Yeah, I was so nervous once I realized there's so many people to know on here. So many awesome people.
Hey, Kim
Not that I thought there'd
Johnson.
be unawesome people.
Kim, I wanted to say I read your post in the Padlet. My son's a freshman at Midway playing soccer too.
How awesome. Yeah.
So I thought that was cool.
Sporting my shirt right now.
That's funny.
What's his name? His name's Cyrus Tuttle. He's a goalie.
Yes, my son's the other goalie.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, he's told me about Cyrus. He said there's another freshman. His name is Cyrus. That's great. Yeah. My son is Andy, so he's the other freshman keeper.
Awesome.
How incredible. Small world, how they joined together over there and we joined together here. Well, hopefully I'll see you at a game sometime soon. He's on medical leave right now and he was going to be redshirted, but he's participating in practice as much as he can. But yeah, how incredible.
All right, I think we're all back, everybody. It looks like it's showing me that everybody's back in the room, so I hope that we're not missing somebody.
So thanks, Shasta, for bringing everyone back. Welcome back, everyone. And I think now we have time to share, group reflections. I'm not sure the best way to do this. Becca's usually our facilitator here, and I think we were we were placed in rooms, and rooms had numbers. If you remember your room number, I guess we could do that as go in order. If you don't, that's okay. Just if you have something you want to share, a reflection, an idea, a spark, an aha, certainly you can speak to the questions that were posed in the chat. And with that, I think we'll start with room 1.
Bill, do you happen to know who the members of room 1 are?
Yeah,
I don't.
I don't know if any of us remember.
Let me share that again. Yes, I don't know. Becca is our facilitator for this, so I don't know who was in each room.
Okay, so let me see. If
and you may not know your room number. I grant that too. So maybe just
maybe Shasta knows because
Yeah,
she sent the rooms up, right?
Yeah, you guys, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So unless Teams is lying to me, it says that room 1 was Lindsay, Savannah, Martha, and Krista. Were you friends in a group together?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
we were.
then Teams
Yes.
is telling me the truth. All right. So room 1, Lindsay, Savannah, Martha, or Krista. Any, big questions, big ahas, anything you guys want to highlight or share from your conversation?
We talked about, the first thing we talked about was developing that relationship with our co-ops. So for mine, it's CKEC. And I was talking about one of the challenges that I've had, and I would imagine that many people on here have had, is that with the overwhelming nature of our job right now, because of being understaffed and just covering a lot of different things, I've had to step back from CKEC. I'm the assistant dose, and the dose has been going, and I miss it so much because it's such a great learning experience for me. But then I'm doing the Berea RTC meetings, and we finally just had to say, we're going to have to split these so that, we can handle everything we need to in the district. But that CKEC dose meeting once a month is just invaluable, and I'm going to find my way back there.
Some great folks over at CKEC too. All of our surtacs or co-ops. Just some of the every time that we get to do like a project together, it's like one of my most favorite things because they're so bright, intelligent, just like great people. So I can imagine. Thank you, Martha.
They used to offer that you could participate online. Do they still offer that?
They do. But honestly, it's not even about the driving over there. Right. It's like I'm in ARC meetings.
Sure.
And,
okay.
Yeah. But it's not forever. It's,
Right.
because I did all of them
Mhm.
last year. It's just
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Sometimes I was just saying that sometimes when I couldn't carve out the time to get there, I could do a little bit of it online if I.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. Room 2 says it was Andrea, Stacy, Amanda, Melissa, and Kane Alvey. So hopefully, again, teams is telling the truth. And if it is, then somebody from that room, do you have any questions or insights you want to share?
So along those same lines as the co-ops, we talked about what kind of value the co-ops bring to us. And we've even gone in our district, and we've gone to explore other co-ops. So we are in Greg, but we've also gone to West Kentucky. We've gone to CK, Central Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, to access what they have as well. We also said, even at a district level, there's a need for improvement of collaboration, because being in a bigger district, coming from a smaller district into a bigger district, there's more hands in the pot. There are more hands that have to be involved. So how do we get those people or those groups and those entities involved, and what are ways that we can develop that collaborative effort?
Good. And I, again, hearing lots about the co-op. So I think it's awesome, Tracy and Jane, that you guys shared that information about our co-ops, or our surtax. That's the fancy new acronym, right? Surtax. Room 3 is Paige, Hale, Renee, Sandra, and Andrea.
All right, I'm going to speak for our group. Can you all hear me? Awesome. Okay. Well, we talked about our roles. Two of us are behavior consultants. We had one individual who's come back from KDE, and then teaching. And we talked about our collaborative relationships with the co-ops, for example, have varied depending on where we're at in our careers. So I talked about being in Fayette County being so large, I would be less likely to reach out and say, have the co-ops behavior consultant come out because we have those resources, but I would reach out virtually or, participate in the PLCs offered by CKEC versus have that individual come and physically help. Whereas in a smaller district I've been in, I would actually have the co-ops behavior person come out and we would work together, observe in the classrooms, etc. One of the things we talked about what the collaborative relationships look like, we were totally in agreement with Tracy and Jane, but we also had to recognize that things have changed too. And this year, like for example, yes, we totally agree. You've got to give the supports, and I'm in a district support position, and you've got to have the high expectations, but collaboration looks different right now. Collaboration, instead of maybe providing PD, was me being a sub-para all day yesterday in an MSD classroom. You know what I mean? That's a whole different situation where just that presence and being able to just pivot and be there. And it also kind of makes other collaborations more difficult. So it was kind of funny. Renee is a new behavior consultant in Campbell County, and Campbell County has reached out to my team wanting to come observe in some of our behavior classrooms. And we've been trying for several weeks to find a time to make that happen. And just the reality right now with being sub-paras, this and that has made it difficult. So we have like some situations where collaborating is hard right now in some normal ways. So we're all just kind of on the ground collaborating in different ways, if that makes sense.
Great
Thank
point.
you, Paige. Just out of the interest in time here, because we had like 13 different rooms, let me just ask this. Was there anything really powerful that kind of came up from a group, or something that you're like, oh my gosh, that was just so insightful and I think it would really benefit? So does anybody from any of the teams, right? So whatever group you were in, something that you were like, I just really want to make sure that everybody gets to hear that.
we really talked about, I was in group 4 and I was very motivated to share with you because I have not shared in the whole time that I've been a LEADS cohort member. I have not shared in these collaborative sessions after our individual groups. But we really talked about the need to sell ourselves and that being a really important piece into that collaborative process because when people see your value, and see what you're bringing to the table, they're going to be more interested in developing that collaborative relationship and working with you. So we thought it was really important to make sure that we know what we're bringing to the table and being able to communicate that effectively to others.
Good, Stacy. Yes, I agree.
I think for our group, we talked a lot about a couple different things, but one that was a really good idea is that Michael had said that when he was a DOS, if he couldn't make it to co-op meetings, he would sometimes send people to represent him. And I think that that is so important because sometimes I think that our DOSes take on so much that sometimes they don't feel like that's an option. And that might actually help to disseminate the information that the co-ops have a little bit more easily. And then secondly, the collaboration between like parents and mental health. And I just think in our district alone, there's several of us from Boone County, but in the past couple of years, the mental health component, especially in Northern Kentucky with like Cincinnati Children's not accepting Kentucky Medicaid, has been such a big deal for our students with big behaviors. And if we all look at it, we probably all spend a lot of times with our kids with lots of behaviors. So if our DOS and our superintendents and all those people didn't support this collaboration that we've done with parents, mental health facilitators, I mean, we've attended doctor's appointments with kids recently, and gone with the parents who may not feel comfortable navigating that. Just that parent and this mental health component of collaboration is so important for everyone to support from the top down so that our teachers feel comfortable doing that, and us showing them that it might not be teaching this child how to read or write, but if we don't support them in this way, we're not going to be able to support them in the education piece of things.
I love that, Nicole. Of course, I love to hear all the wonderful stories of how, teachers and districts, work to partner with families. And so that just warms my heart to hear that you guys have taken such a intentional effort to make sure that you support the needs, not what you've determined the needs are, but the actual needs based on what parents are telling you. So I love to hear that. That's wonderful. Anybody else? We've got a couple of minutes here. Anybody else have a really great, I think I saw, Holly, you had your hand up earlier. I don't want to ignore that, but then you took it down. So it's totally up to you if you want to share.
No, that's okay, because mine is not as much of a share as it is a question. Because in our group, we were talking about there are several different people within the cooperatives that we work with and we know to reach out to, but it would be amazing to have a comprehensive list of all of the different people that we can contact and what services are offered. And we just didn't know if that existed somewhere, like a beautiful little flow chart. Like, I need this, here's who I can reach out to, and then they can send me to these places. Like, do we just always reach out to Tracy and she sends us in the right direction?
So Holly, I think, and you ask about the cooperatives, right? About the surtax and them having contact lists. So one of the things that I get to do now that's been really awesome is work with them a lot. And so it's give and take, right? They share stuff with us, we share stuff with them, and I'll definitely take that to them and express that, because one of the things that's been asked of us, and several of you have probably gotten some of those communications around using the KDE directory for OSEAL. You can find everyone there, etc. And so I think what you're asking is, how do we do that with our cooperatives? How do we know who's out there? And so I'll take that to them. I'll share that with them. That's a great idea, Holly. I hadn't even thought about that.
We have the Kentucky DOS website. I put it in the chat, so it's just kydose.org. That actually has contact information for everybody from every co-op, and then from there they can disseminate out if they need to give you another resource.
So on that, Catherine, you're saying all staff members and what their roles and responsibilities are on that website? Well, I had no idea. So there you go, Holly. Collaboration at its finest right here. That's awesome. So Catherine took care of that.
Yeah, she did. Look, this is why we ask the questions, because somebody else is probably going to have the answer, which is wonderful.
Okay, so Catherine, I'm on the website, and when I go to the special ed cooperatives and I click on it, it tells me like who the people are at the cooperatives. But it doesn't tell me like if I am looking for ways for parents engagement, there's nothing that tells me to go to like Kentucky Spin. Is that on here and I'm missing it?
I don't, I think in the section where it says more, they have things like ARC chair, assessment accommodations, child find, correctional facilities. I don't know if KY Spin is directly on there, but we can definitely give them that feedback to add parent organizations on there.
So speaking of collaboration, I'm just going to go ahead and put a plug in for the Kentucky Council for Children with Behavior Disorders. Because if you go to their website, www.kyccb.org, you will find resources on there around behavior. So I did want to just make a note around that. I know none of you all have any behavioral challenges in your districts, classrooms, or schools, but in the event that you meet someone who does, CCBD, we do have some resources there. And yeah, that might be another area to check out a resource. I'll drop it in the chat. I dropped
in the chat, Let's Learn Kentucky, and that has a lot of great resources for families. And it was kind of rolled out a little bit with the early childhood standards recently, but it, I think, okay. But it has a lot of great, it's all in one place. So you were talking about SPIN and you're talking about things for families. So this is a great resource. So.
I'm going to tell Rhonda that how many times Kentucky Spin was brought up, and she's going to be so happy. She's the director at Kentucky Spin. She's going to be so happy to hear how many times families and Kentucky Spin was brought up. So that's awesome.
Well, I'm glad you all are doing that, because when I was a director, I didn't know about Kentucky Spin.
They're great.
I probably shouldn't admit that, but I didn't.
Alrighty, Bill, I think we're at about 11:43. So unless there's like a burning question, and again, we know you guys are probably going to think of things afterwards, right? Like you'll be like doing something else later and be like, I wish I'd asked that. Feel free to email anybody from the leadership team, post it on the discussion board. You know, Tracy and Jane, I know, would also accept any questions that you might have for them. So don't hesitate to bring something up in a different way at a later date if you want to share that.
I hate to interrupt you like I am, but Savannah very patiently and proactively put a question in the chat about 10 minutes ago. Okay. And I feel like we need to at least acknowledge the question. And the question is, how do we build effective collaborative relationships with Gen Ed teachers so that they work well with special ed teachers and students with disabilities? That is the million-dollar question that has no silver bullet. But what I would share with you is, again, it goes back to relationships and perspective and collaboration. Really, I remember years ago when I worked with the co-op, a lot of some preliminary things that took place around, what are your values on classroom management? What are your values on instructional strategies and things like that? Anything you can do to facilitate conversation among those professionals before. The other thing that I would share from my experience that we always found to be successful is anytime you can establish a shared classroom. So if you have a syllabus, both names are on there. If you have a door sign, both names are on there. Anything you can do to establish a shared piece. But now that's a partnership that's kind of like an arranged marriage, right? And these two people get stuck together and they don't always get to have a lot of input on that. And so anything, that's what I would share. Jane, do you have anything you would add to that?
No, I totally agree with that. And I think a lot of that starts with administrative support, at the building level, and sometimes many times at the district level. I agree, kind of like an arranged marriage. It starts with your building principal and common planning times, and you being able to work together on building standards and building lesson plans together, and building pacing guides together, and working together on on everything for that classroom. And so I think that's how that partnership works. And, you know, I don't think so when you know, it's really a co-teaching situation. It's not a you're the special ed teacher and you're the regular ed teacher. It's really a shared,
Gosh, sweetie, I'm online.
a shared situation. So.
I think I muted the speaker, not the microphone. So my apologies.
Oh.
All righty, friends. All right, I think that is, thank you, Tracy, for picking up on Savannah's question as well. I think I lost it in the chat, so thank you for taking care of it. All right, Bill.
Thank you, Shasta. Thank you, Tracy and Jane. Wow. I have lots of takeaways from today. So effective collaboration really has to do with paying attention to the needs of students, families, colleagues, and partners. Being generous, right, with your time, right? Don't close the doors, right? Be positive. Don't just automatically say no. Really think through and be generous. And above all, be resilient, right? This is difficult work, and you need to bounce back. So the skill of bouncing back important to being an effective collaborator. This is a phenomenal session. Thank you for your time this morning joining us. I'm going to put in a moment a link to the evaluation. So please be sure to go out and provide us with the evaluation. I think it's added. And next month, we will have our celebration on September 24th. Following that, in October, well, the strand will be on administration and finance. I'll check to see if there are any final questions. I'll ask the team if they have anything more they want to share.
So I would, thank you, Bill. I just want to say thank you to Cohort 1 for your hard work over the years. We appreciate you. We encourage you to come back next month, and we encourage you to continue to participate. We encourage you to continue to stay connected to Kentucky Leads. We appreciate you. We know you're going to do great things, and we're so proud of you. To Cohort 3, welcome. We're happy to have you. We're happy to engage with you. We're here if you need anything from us. And also thank you to Dr. Sharp and Jane. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us to engage with our scholars. So again, thank you all so much. We're so happy to see you. Cohort 1, we hope that you'll continue to participate. Cohort 3, get ready. It's going to be a good time, but we're happy that you're on board.
Thank you all very much.
That concludes the session, everyone. Have a great Saturday.
Thank you,
Y'all too.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
See you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Neil and Shasta and Thomas, you all were right. Amazing.